We're learning the result of a study on the impact of screen time on children's developing brains. The National Institute of Health released data this week from a decade-long research project. According to a report from 60 Minutes on CBS, the findings showed the startling results from brain scans of 9 and 10-year-olds who use smartphones, tablets, and other devices for more than 7 hours a day. Let's bring in Dr. Jennifer Caudle to discuss. She is a board-certified family medicine physician. Dr. Caudle, thanks so much for being back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is an interesting study. What do you think it tells us about the impacts of screen time on children's brains?
Well, I think it tells us that we really need to be paying attention to screen time and the amount of screen time that our young people have. And I want to talk a little bit about the study. It's really important. This is a landmark study. This is a $300 million study funded by the NIH and other organizations that's enrolled over 11,000 9 and 10-year-olds. And let me tell you, this is a study that's not over yet. It's actually going to be ongoing, following these children into adulthood for about 10 years. Now, the results that you're talking about, the fact that we're finding out that screen time can affect the brains, that's from preliminary data that's already been released. And you're right, about 4,500 kids were looked at as a part of this cohort and found that, yes, kids who had about 7 hours of screen time or more did show physiologic changes in the brain, and in some cases, some cognitive changes as well. I think the big question is, what does that mean? And that's one of the things that researchers are going to be looking at in the future.
And Doctor, you mentioned that the study is ongoing. How long will it take us to truly find out the impact of screen time on children's cognitive development?
Well, I personally think it's probably going to take longer than 10 years, but I think that this study is a huge start and a really amazing thing. This study is looking at not just social media, but also environmental, genetic, and biological factors, and how these, along with social factors, can influence a child into adulthood. One thing I have to say is when I was a kid, and so many of us, I didn't have social media. We didn't have social media. So this is kind of uncharted territory. We really don't know what this means for the new generation of kids. So 10 years is a really great start for this study, but I think that we're probably going to need even more than that to really understand how social media is really impacting our society.
So what does this mean for people who may be watching today who grew up on the cusp of smartphone technology? You're right, I'm with you. I didn't have social media growing up either. But should we be limiting our screen time as adults as well?
So I think that's a really good question. I know that right now we have guidelines for kids, and starting with those, the American Academy of Pediatrics, I think this is really important for parents should know that the guidelines right now say that children less than 18 to 24 months should not be using social media except for video calling, to relatives or friends or things like that with family members. The AAP, American Academy of Pediatrics, says that for kids 18 to 24 months, you can start incorporating that, but really, it should be high quality programming and parents should be involved. And then 2 to 5 years old, maybe 1 hour of screen time. But to your question, should adults be limiting their social media? I mean, as a family doctor, I think we should be, because I think that when we use too much social media and on our phones too much, we're not exercising, we're not socializing with other people, we're not kind of maybe getting the most out of real life and the present life. And we know that that can have health implications as well.
Sure, that makes sense. So what can be done to stop this trend, both at home and on a national scale, Dr. Caudle? Should lawmakers and our government be paying attention to this study?
Well, absolutely. I think we all have to be paying attention to this study. Now, yes, we have a long ways to go. We have about 10 years that we're going to need to kind of wait to see the final results, although the study is going to be releasing interim results along the way. But the thing about it is this is a wake-up call to parents. I mean, look, pay attention to your kids and how much they're on their screens. Screens should not be babysitters. You don't want to plop your kid down with a screen in order to babysit them. You want to make sure they have high quality programming. And for those kids that are too young, they shouldn't be using screens at all. And, I have to be honest with you, as a family doctor, I've often put limitations on my own patients saying, look, parents, you've got to limit their screen time, no more than such and such amount of time per day. So we have to be active and engaged in this.
Dr. Jennifer Caudle, thanks so much for being back on the show and explaining this landmark study. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being on Cheddar Big News.
Thank you.